So Saturday we didn't run an episode, not because we didn't have one recorded. We're working on the editing, and there were some other things that we had to work on as well that kind of delayed it as far as some big projects that will be coming out that hopefully you'll find pretty exciting. We didn't want you to go without anything this week until we have the episode coming out this coming Saturday, so we are running a special episode, not an interview, but rather a recording of a class with one of our previous guests. Sarah Clark, who spoke about the Holy Guardian Angel and the Abramelin in our first episode, has gone around to a few different OTO bodies and taught classes on the experience as well. And I happen to have a recording of one of her early classes on the subject, and she's given me permission to post it. So we will be airing that for you as an alternative to an episode for the week. I hope you enjoy it.
I'm always afraid when people ask me, well, what is it? Because it's very new to me. I just finished the initiation. It was late October, and we're still kind of adjusting to each other. And so obviously I still think of it as a separate thing. And it's been really, really hard, and it's been really, really complicated, and I haven't formed an opinion like everyone else seems to yet. It definitely seems like something else, but he's shown me all these times that he's been with me throughout my life and taught me, so it seems like something that's part of me, but then I think of him as a he, and some people say, well, it's got to be your same sex if it's part of you, and some people say it's got to be the opposite sex if it's the angel. So you're going to run into all kinds of opinions. So I don't want to really say what it is because I don't want to form an opinion for anyone. What I really, really, really want to do is to inspire people to do this on their own. Because when I first got into it and realized that I was going to be going through with it, there wasn't really anyone in the community that had done it. There were a couple people, and that was it. And that was really surprising, especially because it seems like such a major part of Thelema. Crowley says, I'm going to butcher the quote, but he basically says it's like the ritual that you have to do. And when I found out that all these other people who I thought were way better magicians than I was hadn't done it, I got really, really scared. And well, let me go back. I got to go back to how I got into it. I didn't think I was going to get into it so soon. What I did was I read the books, both versions. If anyone's read the Den version, that's probably the better one. Well, it's definitely the better one. But I read both versions, and I thought, well, this is definitely for me, but I thought that I was missing something. I couldn't figure out what, and I kept reading them over and over and over again, and I thought, well, I want my life to be absolutely perfect for this ritual. Like, he has definite set rules about what you're supposed to do and how your living space is supposed to be arranged. And I thought, I'm gonna definitely steer my life towards where I can have that perfect place. And we all know how that goes when we try to make things perfect. Not usually at all. So I had a time frame. I had it all planned out. About 5 years down the road, I'd be approaching 40. And I was going to do it then. I was going to have the perfect apartment. I'd have a little separate room with all the windows and the terrace and everything. And he's got you've got a little shelf on the side. Yeah, he's got it all planned out. And I was going to have it exactly right. And I started praying to the angel. And I was like, I'll just go ahead and pray and tell him that I'm coming. You know, he'll figure it out, and we'll get together in a few years and it'll be great. And they weren't really structured prayers. It was usually right before bed, maybe a little sex magic thrown in there, And I didn't do it every night, and I eventually just stopped doing it, and I just forgot about it. And once I was just cleaning my apartment one day, washing the dishes or sweeping or something, and I got this very strong sort of, it was almost like a punitive sort of message. It was like, what are you doing? You started the operation, now you gotta finish. I was like, what? No, I didn't. I didn't start at all. What are you talking about? That's a dumb thought. No, I didn't. It's like, yes, yeah, you did. Now finish. And it was very, very horrifying and frightening because I kept trying to argue. And there was really no arguing. And I got really scared, and that's when I started asking people around the lodge, around in the community, about if anyone had done it, and I realized that really nobody had, and I didn't know what to do, because if you've read the books, there's not a whole lot of information about how to actually go about it. He basically just says, pray and you'll be fine, you know. And I just didn't think I'd be successful, but obviously I had to do it because that's what the voice said, at the risk of sounding crazy. But I just realized how that sounded. Yeah.
As long as the voices in your head don't tell you like to jump around on a pogo stick and kill people, I figure we're good.
Yeah.
I mean, I can back you up. HGA's talking bitch slap voices. That's
Yes, they do.
Really? Okay.
Yes,
It wasn't
they
just
really
me?
do. No.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, yes, I got the bitch slap voice, and it was very insistent, and so at that time, I was living in a studio apartment, which doesn't really lend itself well to having a separate space or anything. So I didn't know what to do. I talked a lot to BJ, and he helped me with practical things, getting the incense together and the oils and stuff. But I just continued to pray every day. And since I wasn't sure exactly when I had started, I wasn't sure how to structure it, because if you read the first version, it's 6 months. If you read the second version, it's 18 months. I didn't know what to do, so I prayed about it, and the answer I got was, you'll be done October 31st. I thought that was a strange date. Halloween doesn't really have a meaning for me, but it was almost a year away. So I thought, well, I'll continue my prayers at night, and I'll start May 1st and do the 6 months. And so that's how I structured it. So that Jack had asked me, like, if I had done the Abermahlin. I'm not really sure if I can call it that, because it doesn't really fit the framework. And there are a lot of people out there who say if you're not doing it exactly as the book says you should be doing it, then it's not really the Abermahlin. So I didn't really do it exactly how either book said, but I got the result. So you know,
Yeah.
well, yes, nah.
So there.
I'm not really sure why. I guess I understand where that would come in, that attitude, because you don't want to detract from the ritual so much that it's just this really watered down thing that doesn't work. So maybe that's the reason that they're so purist about it. So I understand that. But you know, most of us probably have heard of Liber Samic, like. So there are other ways, and I've heard that's been successful by someone I trust. So.
Josh and Jake both use
Oh, really? Well, and Samic is a lot different from the Abermahlin, and if they both get the same result, you know, hurrah. So I'm not really sure which version I would plug, especially since I was kind of unwilling in beginning in the first place.
Well, tell us what you did do.
Oh, you mean like practically?
Yeah. What did you do?
Well, like I said, I started May 1st, and that was when I started the 6-month version. And it's divided into 3 parts, so you've got 2 months each of increasingly longer prayers and more intense devotions. And, well, May 1st is when Facebook went off, and I stopped being so social. I still did some things, and I think that's the part that really sort of turns people off to it. They read the book, Abraham's book, and they think that they have to just leave from society, and that's not the case. I can see how maybe being in the desert for 6 months or in the woods for 6 months would probably be the best thing, but it's not really going to happen. I mean, unless we're all independently wealthy and really can do that, which is probably not going to happen. And I know some people who've said that they were purists about it and they were going to wait until their life was, like I was just perfect. It's probably not going to happen. So, like I started in my studio apartment and I prayed about it. How was I going to even set this up at all? I didn't have anything. At that time, I had recently left my husband, and all of my possessions, including all of my magical possessions, which were pretty extensive. So I went from having a lot of stuff to nothing. And I thought that all of that stuff was lost, and most of it was. But I got the inspiration, as I learned to call it, not the voice, not the creepy voice, the inspiration. The inspiration told me to contact my ex-husband and tell him that I needed my altar back. And I assumed that was gone. And, I had left the house and everything in it, and I assumed he did too. I contacted him and asked if he had by chance saved it, and he had. And I was very surprised, and he brought it over, and I was surprised about that too. He brought it to me and wished me well. And I had this altar that I had been doing magic on for years, which was wonderfully, wonderfully wonderful to happen. And that became the centerpiece of the ritual. And I began praying the first month. And after the first month, I was told that I needed to leave my apartment. And so I'm in the middle of the ritual, and I started asking around. It's like, should I stop? Maybe should I halt everything? And I prayed too. Inspiration told me to keep going. And people told me that this would be really detrimental, and I would probably not work if I moved during the ritual. And I was like, I want to listen to you, but the voice is stronger, so I listened to the voice, and I found this wonderful apartment the very next day, actually, that I was told I needed to leave. And it was actually really perfect. It had a great amount of windows, and it had a separate room where I could be and have my separate space, and it was absolutely perfect. So I moved everything there, and that was after the first month. So the second month, and I'd like to talk about how people think that you can't do this when you have a job, which is untrue. At the very end, you're going to get to a time where you need to pray 3 times a day. Ideally, you want to be in front of that altar in your space. You really do. But it's just not going to happen. Morning, noon, and night for 2 months or 6 months, whichever you do. It's really not going to happen. I mean, I hope it does for you, but it probably won't. So I work in a law firm, and at lunchtime, I just find a quiet space, a conference room, just go in, do your thing. And every day, you're not, it might not be perfect, but as long as your heart's in the right place, as long as you really make the effort to, you really don't have to worry about failing so much, because that was really, really on my mind, that I just wasn't going to be able to do it. Especially because everyone I talked to said, oh no, I just don't have the time. You can make the time to do this. You really can. And you really should. You really, really should. It's well worth the efforts. So, let's see. What else do I want to talk about? Well, the acquisition of tools was kind of fun, actually.
Bless you.
Is that your heckling? You need to step it up.
You're just fine without me.
There are a lot of things you need. And I say that because most of us have probably heard the story of, oh God, was it Germer?
Concentration camp?
Yes.
Yeah.
Germer in the concentration camp, who figured he would get knowledge and conversation. Okay, so this is a man in a horrible time who decides to do the ritual. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that he doesn't have a wand or a robe or candles or incense or abamelin oil. So, and again, I'm probably speaking against the purists who think you have to do it exactly as it's written in the book. But Gerber probably didn't. And as far as we know, he was successful. So, what I did there was a lot of hubbub about the almond wand, and I tried very, very hard to get one, but almond wood was just not happening at the time. I looked all over. I found a man in California who said he could get it to me, but it would just be a tad too late. So, I think it was BJ that I talked to about. Were you the one that told me about just pick a tree that you felt? That was probably you.
Yeah,
Wasn't
the one that you felt fit the symbolism in which you're working.
it? Yeah. And I don't, I'm not very woodsy or witchy like that, so I didn't have any certain trees that I resonated with, but there was a silver maple in my mother's yard, and when I was younger, when I first started to do magic in the house that I grew up in, I'd look out the window at this maple, and that's what I gazed at all the time when I was trying to meditate or doing anything. And so I thought, well, that's the one. I'll get a branch from that, and I'll make my wand. So I did. I walked out one day to get a branch, and my mother's cat followed me. And, great cat, he's got the thumbs. And, so I walked out, and I was gonna cut one, they've got the rules, like you've got to cut it at a certain time with one stroke. I don't even know. But I couldn't reach any. So I thought, oh gosh, well, there were a bunch laying on the ground. And I thought, well, these are actually, they're a pretty good size. And I, on a whim, turned to the cat and I said, well, which one should I choose? And he laid down and touched one. I was like, all right, I'll take it. I took it, and it had a perfect little divot on the end. And I thought, I can make this really pretty. I can, sand it down and actually put something on the end. And like I said, I'm not very witchy, so I don't know much about stones or crystals or anything. So I thought I'd look around and try to find something that resonated with me, and I never really got around to that. It just kind of stuck at the back of my mind. And about a week before the actual invocations were supposed to begin, I still hadn't gotten one, and I had totally forgotten about it. And I'm sitting there doing my laundry, and I'm unfolding a shirt, and I unfold a shirt from a dryer, and something pops out and falls to the ground in front of me. And I look down, and it's this crystal. It's a cut quartz crystal. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's gonna fit perfectly, and that's gonna be my wand. And I went right over and just stuck it in. I was like, that's really interesting. So yeah, things like that don't happen on your way. Like if you're not prepared, like I wasn't at all. I was less than prepared. I was kind of fighting it the whole way. I remember when we went shopping for incense supplies and things. I was kind of a drag. Well, you handed me a basket to put stuff, and you're putting stuff in my basket. You'll need this, you'll need this. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, Eeyore. I don't want to do this. Yeah, I wanted it to be perfect, but I have a tendency to stagnate like that. I'll be like, I'm fine where I am, or I'm not ready. I'm not ready for the next step. And so I need that push. So I was ready, obviously, even though I fought it until basically the last day. Well, I know what everyone wants to hear about. It's like probably the invocations and the conjurations. Is that what everyone wants to hear about?
And what else you did? I mean, what you had to give up in order to achieve?
Well, okay. I think I had it a little easier than most people because I don't have children, I don't have a husband, I live alone, I have a cat. I mean, the last week I had to give the cat to my mom to watch, and that was about it. So it was actually really easy to come home and shut off the rest of the world. So I'm not really sure what advice to give to people with families. But if you've read the book, Abraham specifically talks about that, so it's not impossible. It's definitely something that can be done. I mean, he specifically talks about marriage and children and what to do. So the people who think that you really need to go off into the woods for 6 months, you know, they're not really reading the book the right way. They're not seeing that you can completely work this into your life. You really can. You just have to make it a really main part of your life. And yeah,
The family thing, it's not too bad. You just have to plan it in and plan ahead.
he's in the middle of it, right?
Right. So as long as your partner and your kids are understanding, it's not that difficult.
And he's got a newborn.
And shit will come up, and you just gotta roll with the punches.
Yeah. And to really meet the whole part of the process is that last week. This is all just one big purification that leads up to that. So if it's not perfect, don't, agonize over it and think you're going to fail. Just keep going. That was one thing when I got to the end. I thought, well, maybe I'm just not pure enough. Maybe I'm going to do the invocations and nothing's going to happen, and I'm going to fail. And I thought, well, you know what? I'll just keep going. There was a story that was it the After the Angel book, the book with the gold wings on it. I don't remember. One of the books about the Abermalin that recently came out. Someone shared a story about their friend who, when he went through the 6 months, at the invocations, he just got nothing. There was nothing. He failed. And he didn't just say, okay, well, I failed. The end. I suck. He just started the purification and kept going. He just kept going. And he went for another 6 months and prayed 3 times a day for another 6 months. and tried again, and he was successful. So just keep going if you're afraid that I was deathly afraid that nothing was going to happen and all of that would have been for nothing, and I thought, well, I'll just go another few months. It's not going to kill me. It's really not. I don't have to go to all the parties all the time. And I was a pretty social person, very social person. I like alcohol. I like food, and it's not a lot to give up when you consider what you actually gain, which I'm telling you is a lot. It's a whole lot, and it's very worth it.
And you do give up alcohol, and you do give up parties, or?
Mostly, I guess the purists would say you gotta give up alcohol, you gotta give up meat. I don't know about the meat thing. I've been a vegetarian for a long time, so that wasn't an issue. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about
I
that.
didn't give up, but then I would have starved to death. I think, a lot of the purifications are based on earlier stuff in Jewish magic.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the main thing, like Sarah said, is you're just immersing yourself in that prayer and that purification for the months leading up to it. And as much as sometimes Aaron can be a little bit elitist in how he describes things about the ritual, he makes a very good point. Like Sarah said, it's the ritual is only actually 7 days. Like, it's just the last 7 days of it. And so you get a little stricter with stuff then, and a little more specific with stuff then. But a lot of it's kind of working with your angel individually to see what it wants you to give up. I think abstinence is one of the big important ones, because you want to focus all of that attention and energy towards the connection with the angel. I think more than anything, that and anything mind-altering are the two things that I think you absolutely have to give. You don't give up abstinence, but engage in abstinence.
Yeah.
And you give up mind-altering substances, and which, I think those you were.
Yeah, well, I drank a little at the beginning in the first phase, but I lost my taste for it very fast, very, very fast. And I could pretty much just have one drink in one sitting, and it wasn't until I think in the third phase, I had a beer when we went out. We had lunch, and then I had half of a glass of wine that was really just a sip, and that was about a month out before the invocations, and I just couldn't stomach anymore. I just didn't want it. And it was coffee. That was the big deal. That was probably the hardest part of giving up things. It wasn't giving up sex, it wasn't giving up parties, it was giving up coffee. I was told that I was drinking way too much coffee. Well, I was drinking about 4 cups a day. So I guess I can see that, I wasn't drinking 4 beers a day. I was drinking 4 cups of coffee a day, and that was obviously altering my chemistry. And I didn't even manage to quit coffee completely. I think I was down to about 1 every other day, 1 cup, just to keep the headaches away.
That's what I was going to ask you.
And but yeah, I lost my taste for alcohol. Meat, which I don't care about. I've been a vegetarian since I was 16. It doesn't bother me, but it started to repel me, the smell of it. Because I have a cat, and I would feed her, wet cat food, and I'd open up the can and just want to puke. And that's gone now, thank goodness.
That's a common reaction to some cat foods.
In a lot of the Merkava materials, which you talk about how they kind of relate to the Abramelin stuff, that's the reason for the purifications, is angels don't like the way humans smell when they eat certain things. Well, they don't like the way humans smell at all. But certain food, it's like a lot of stuff, it's like any stinking foods or any foods that will make you have stinking odors. And so
Like cheese.
How-
beans are one they're actually there's like a lot of vegetables that are like you can't eat meat and you also can't eat these vegetables, and like these are pretty much always on there. And
How do they
Were
feel
you-
about garlic?
Oh no.
Because I'm gonna cry if I can't have garlic.
Well, did you say you were just on fish?
But I don't fucking want to play.
Are you just eating fish now? Is that what you
I
said?
bounce around. I eat a hell of a lot less meat than I used to. I went through a couple week vegan phase, and now it's just kind of I make it whenever I feel like it.
And was that when you just started?
Yeah, about the first month or two.
And so I'm gonna go ahead and hazard a guess that the purification's probably gonna be very individual for everyone who does it.
Like I found like pork was just, which was
Really?
soul sucking. Like I can't tell you how much I miss like the pulled pork sandwich. What do you mean no pork? You couldn't take the chicken away? At least it's remote.
You can actually make really good cold chicken.
during the 3 days of confessing, I only drank water and ate like cream of wheat, and then like there was a lot of soup eating throughout.
After you cream wheat, I'll tell you anything.
And what are the 3 days of confessing?
Abraham the Jew says that you have to confess your life, like basically like everything that you've done that would be a sin that would prevent you from doing the ritual. And so you make this confession and you burn the confession, and I can't remember, just he has to wear the ash, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so you wear the ash from the burned confession, but over that 3-day period, you have to continually make the confession. And so the way that I approached it was I wrote out a confession of everything that held me back from like pursuing my true will, from being successful as an individual, from being myself.
Because that's what I was going to ask. We're Thelemites.
Yeah.
What is sin?
Well,
That's exactly what I did.
And it's 3 days enough for Bijou.
Yeah. Right. So,
But notice he said confession, not necessarily sin.
right.
Yeah.
It's just you're just confessing your life basically, and so so I wrote out the confession, went out and did the confession, and then the remaining times when I had to do it during the 3 days, it was all extemporaneous. So it was like still basically confessing the same stuff, but not trying to memorize it. So like the first time you've got it very formally, and then after that it's sort of going from your heart. It was kind of cool. Like I went outside and there'd been a blizzard, and so there were like several feet of snow on the ground, and I had this like metal bowl that I was burning it in with. I had old cakes of light that I was getting rid of, and so I burned the confession with the old cakes of light, and I was making a new batch to use during the ritual. And as I'm out there at like 2 in the morning, like trying to like do this confession and burn this stuff out in the snow, this fox just like jumps up on a snowbank and like watches me. And then like after I'm done, the fox is like, okay. And then that's off. But so I don't know what you said that made me think of that.
Oh, what were you talking about?
Purifying yourself.
The purification being an individual thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the first 3 days, like you have 3 days of like intense purification at the beginning, and so again, like you might have like different things that you interpret as to what you do with that. Like there were a lot of other things that I was drawing on from other things in addition to doing that part.
Well, that's one of the things that was intimidating to me about the ritual. He doesn't really tell you what to do. He'll just say like, pray, confess, do it. Yes.
Now, is the ritual itself or the invocation, is that done like Samek in the Body of Light, or is it, physical, ceremonial type thing where you're
It
walking
was
around
physical.
such.
Yeah, it was physical for me. I drew on a lot of things that I've learned from here, and I actually used some of Samick and the Mass and some of my own things, and created my own ritual, because I mean you pretty much have to. That's actually one thing Abraham says. Oh, you don't need any special skills to do this, and I guess I would sort of disagree, because I think that you should know how to construct a ritual, a successful ritual. That's probably the only thing I think maybe you need to know, because otherwise, I mean, if you're totally new to magic and has never done anything like that before, I'm not sure how you would do the invocation.
So how did you know you contacted your HGA and you were successful? Like what happened? What was the money shot?
Money shot.
Cut to the chase.
See, I actually was expecting something like a money shot. Well, from the way he talks about it in the book, what does he say? Oh, it's so great. It's the best thing. You'll feel so good. He pretty much talks it up like it's the best feeling ever. You'll feel so loved. And I guess it wasn't so much on the positive scale of that. It was, I think how I explained it to you, it was like it felt like I was sitting in a room and someone had just turned the lights on, and I didn't even realize that they were off to begin with the whole time. And it was extreme balance and evenness. And he was there, and he spoke, and he told me, he did say all the times that he had been there, and I had a nice little life review, and I saw a lot of patterns in my life, and it wasn't this sort of orgasmic thing that I was expecting. It was just very even and calm. And oh, sorry, I'm just remembering.
The babe.
It was a good even. It was a good calm. And I don't think I'm explaining it all that well, because even and calm don't seem to do it justice. Is there anything you would say happened
I mean, for me, it was.
other than the bee?
Well, the bee was
The bee
like very
cool.
deliberate.
Yeah.
But like I had, like you have like, at least the way I did it, at the end of it, there's like hours of prayer all together, all at once at the end, and that started with like scrying a tarot card, and so I had like a nice scrying session with the tarot card, and then when I got to the point of like finishing all the preparatory prayers and finally doing the prayer to invoke the angel, the like visionary experience then, it was just so much more intense and real that it was kind of like, wow, it's like that scrying thing earlier didn't happen. Like that was just nothing compared to this. Like it was like a whole different level of experiencing the presence of the spirit and the spiritual communication than like any previous one had been. Now, like Sarah's, the light thing, like I think he actually says in there that it's like there's a rush of light that happens when the angel comes.
Oh, does he?
I thought so.
I
Does it say
don't
that in
remember.
the books? Or maybe that's just like how I'm imagining an angel showing up in a room.
He turned the lights on. Yeah.
I don't remember seeing
Maybe it's like
phrase
the
quite like
window. I thought there was something with the window being open, like that's why you're praying. I don't know. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. I'm remembering someone else's description. But for me, it wasn't like that. It was more like lots of imagery with fire and kind of heart girt with the serpent type of stuff, and and a lot of motion and life to it.
Yeah, motion and life to it. That makes me think of when I was shown my whole life, and I was shown all the zigs and zags of it. It was definitely getting lost in it again. Sorry.
Would you call it an altered state of consciousness?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Definitely, definitely. Oh yeah. It was definitely worth all of that worrying, the stupid worrying that I did, and everything that I gave up. It just seemed so trivial. I mean, I gave up. I gave up going out to parties. And I know maybe that sounds trite, but like when the temptation actually hits you and you're like, oh, I want to go out instead of, reading the scriptures and praying, you might actually go out instead of staying home and reading the scriptures. And you probably should stay home and read the scriptures. And I know you don't, a lot of people don't want to hear that, and that's probably why a lot of people don't do it. But that was kind of my life for 6 months and by scriptures I do mean the Bible, the Old Testament, and I definitely read, Thelemic stuff. But I went back and read the King David stories and the Solomon stuff, and I had never actually conjured a demon before, but I was familiar with, the process, the keys and whatnot. And, obviously I'd read them, but I hadn't actually done it. So that was another anxiety. It's not something I ever thought I would do. It's not something that I was excited about doing at all.
And that's part of it? Conjuring?
Yeah, all of them.
All of them? The whole gang?
Yeah.
Damn. It's a crowded apartment.
You run the train on the entire demonic.
What do you call a group of demons? Is there like a
Is it-
flock?
Oh, I thought this was a joke. I was saying what?
Murder of demons.
It's funny because,
Yes, call it a party.
well, I actually did it how he says it in the book. Abraham says, get the sand and put it outside of the space, and that was a really unfamiliar thing to me too. I mean, in all the Solomon stuff, he's got his triangles and all that jazz. So I just got river sand and I put it outside the window, and at the risk of sounding like a crazy person, all the demons showed up. Not all of them, you got the kings and the dukes, and
The important ones.
yeah, and they showed up in the sand just like he said they would in the book. And I'm even looking at the sand doing this, like rubbing my eyes, like, am I seeing this? I guess I am. I'll just keep going. And it seems intimidating now, but after the initiation, it's kind of like no thing. It'll be easy. And I know, again, he says you don't need any special skills, but I think being familiar with the process, I think, would be helpful. Familiar with that's good.
Is that the evocation with the demons?
Yeah, that's the last 3 days. Yeah, the first 3 is the invocation of the angel with all your confessions, and then the last 3 you call up all the demons, and they give you 4 familiars, which are awesome. If you do it for anything else, the 4 familiars, they're so great.
So let me get this straight. Your favorite part about finding your angels
Yeah.
got out of it?
Okay, well, it's not my favorite part. I mean,
You saw the look on her face.
they're just so helpful. They're so, I I mean, before all this, I was very much into like going out every night and drinking and seeing all of my millions of friends. And now I'm like, I gotta talk to spirits. Go away.
4 friends now.
Yeah, 4 friends now. That's it. I go home and talk to my spirits. What's that? The catheter story.
Catheter.
Catheter?
Kitty litter. Cat litter. Kitty
I have
litter.
a kitty litter story?
You can't use the.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, okay. My, this is after everything. I've got my familiars, and my cat, Lydia, she's old. She's 14 years old. She's very nervous and kind of horrible, but I love her. And I try to baby her because I know she's not going to be around forever. And she starts not using a litter box. This is a few months ago, and I didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to put her on medication. She's old. She's got a heart problem, and So I actually asked one of my familiars, and they said, "Well, she's got fleas. That's her problem." I said, "Okay, I'll get her flea medication," but it didn't help because once the cats start going somewhere, they just keep doing it. So I actually asked all of them, all my familiars, to make her use the litter box, and it kind of got a little out of hand because every time she had to go to the bathroom, she would start running around and like climbing the walls, which she never did before, and she'd be crying. And like a demon was chasing her.
Because you're sick.
Yeah. And then she would use the litter box, but I'd feel horrible. And so, I was like,
You sound like you feel horrible. Listen to you laughing. I feel so bad.
so I actually said, can you do this without killing her? And actually one of the things that they do now, instead of terrifying her into doing it, is they'll, again, at the risk of sounding like a crazy person, they'll just speak in my ear and say, get your cat, and I'll go up and find her, scratch him by my altar, because that's where she likes to pee, and I'll be like, give me your litter box. So instead of them terrifying her, they'll come and at me. So it's really, really handy. They're really handy for information. Most of all, I asked about my health, and they've given me, I don't want to get into that too much, but they've given me amazing things. Once I asked one of them about something related to my health, and they're all girls. All of mine are female, which surprised me. I don't know if that's sexist, but as soon as I saw their names, the demons gave me their names in the sand. I knew they were all female, and I asked about my health, and then she just disappeared. I just felt she was gone. It's like, well, that's a little strange. All right, fine, go. And I didn't really think much of it, but when I woke up the next morning, my email was an email from one of the random health newsletters I was subscribed to, and the subject was about the thing that I asked about, and I went to it and they talked about my answer. So they'll either just give you the answer in surprising ways, or they're very, very just so helpful. If that's all you even want to do it for, just do it for them, because it's so amazing.
Are the demons, are they names that are from history, or are they ones, are they ones that we would have heard of, or?
You mean the mine that I got? I had never heard well, 3 of them I had never heard of before, and I actually Googled them, and actually the 3 that I had never heard of before are all belly dancers in the Middle East. Like they were Middle Eastern woman names that they're nothing that I had ever heard of. I'm not sure.
So you summoned an angel gives you 4 belly dancing beats, which you then sick on your cat.
Now that makes sense.
Well, that doesn't sound crazy at all.
Hey,
See, this
I used a demon to get an ex-boyfriend out of the area. What can I say?
Hey, they're very practical
They're
and
handy.
awesome.
Belly dancing demons does sound practical.
With,
They can perform for you when you're bored.
with all the new talk about spirits' rights and that demons are friendly, misjudged creatures, when you were dealing with the 4 kings and the dukes, what was your impression of them as people?
As people,
People or
they're
entities?
they're a little. Well, Abraham says, be ready, they'll test you. He's like, if you're a Christian, they'll say this. If you're a Jew, they'll say this. I was like totally ready for that, but I didn't get any questioning. I got, fine, we're here, we'll do whatever, and I got the sort of, please be nice to us, and but I didn't know that this was a demon's rights thing. I'd never heard of it.
It's kind of like, I guess, the demonologers and all that. They misjudge.
I'm looking at him for help.
That will be just say how you really feel.
Sounds like you're familiar I feel sorry for that.
He's mean to us.
He beats us and makes us sweep his kitchen.
This is reminding me of Harry Potter too, right?
I was thinking Mickey Mouse.
That too.
I'd never heard demons as people. They didn't seem like people.
No.
Okay. Actually, one of them, well, when I did the call, they all showed up, all 3 of the kings, except one of them wasn't showing up. And I thought, okay, this is, all right, I'm patient. I'll just keep doing it. But then I realized that there was this crow calling outside, and it was like realizing that someone's talking to you when you're focused on something else. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, you're out there. And so I just directed my spiel at him, and he was calling at first in 3 calls, call, and it kept repeating. And so when I did my spiel and I said, and you have to swear, blah, 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 it just went, Rah. I was like, all right.
My cat's a demon. Holy shit, my cat is a demon.
Well, that's actually another thing that's not in the book. I was told to get a ring, and I was told it had to be gold, and I suddenly had the money for it, which is another surprising thing. It actually almost came out to $666. I was so hoping it would. So close. It's like, can you charge me like $3 more? It was.
I bought it before the gold thing, and I remember mine was like 2007, 2008.
No.
Like,
Yeah, mine was a lot.
Was it a Pele ring?
Pele ring? I don't
Yeah, soccer player.
Yeah.
Do you want me to snap
Hawaiian
that for you?
volcano.
Yes,
No, there's
I do.
a Nokia magic that comes up often. I was just wondering if it happened to be the same thing or not.
I don't know.
That's what,
You would know.
that's what mine is.
Yeah.
That was surprising to me because I didn't want to spend that money. But like I said, I just happened to get the amount of money that I needed, so I wouldn't bitch about it. So,
Do you use the ring for ritual, or what's the purpose of the ring?
every time I command the demons, and I've actually been, usually when I talk to the angel, I mean, we're close enough now that I don't need the ring. So, but usually when I just need to command the demons and get them to, and not even just the familiars will come. There's always one around me anyway. That's usually for the ones who are going to be kind of difficult, which is all the rest of them. Yeah, it's funny, after the invocation, of the angel, you're in this super purified state. And all the demons are going to come like bam, 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 bam. Now they won't. Now after, I'm drinking, I'm partying, now they kind of try to be like, you're not as holy as you were that one time.
What do you say to that, God?
So actually, is it the Lamaghettan where he says the 9 days of purification, or am I...
The Heptameron has 9 days.
Is it 9 days?
Probably does too.
So yeah, if you want like the demon to come right away, if you don't want any crap, you might want to like fast for, purify yourself for a while. Because after 6 months of purification, all the kings came, all the dukes came, like it was nothing. Now you're kind of pulling a bit more. Kind of got to flex a bit more.
Have you used the squares at all?
I have. Only once. Because I wanted to see what they did. Well, I mean, because they all kind of have weird things, like make an army appear.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know if I want to try that, because if it works, there's an army.
You have to feed them.
Really buff dudes show up in your apartment.
That would be crowded and
I don't know what I would. Yeah, and then there's like,
Put them to work.
breathing underwater. I don't want to try that and have it not work.
You can get my house cleaned.
Well, there was only one that I could find that I could use in good conscience that wasn't using against anyone else. Because he's got some weird ones in there.
Yeah.
He was like a politician, he was a...
Yeah.
So, find out sexual activity. Like, I don't care who's sleeping
really,
with
who
who. So,
A lot of spirits tell you that.
But who cares? I don't.
like, make a dead person walk out, I'm just gonna skip over that. I don't need a zombie right now. So, there was only one that I could find that I could use in good conscience, and it was a healing one, and it was to heal, was it pimples and ulcers? I'm like, I break out during my period every month. So this might be a little TMI. I don't know if you guys are squeamish.
Eh.
We ate cakes of light, it's fine.
Okay. So I was like, pimples and ulcers. I don't have ulcers, but all right, I'm going to summon a demon so they don't make me not break out anymore. So I get the square, and he says in the book that your spirits can do this. So I call up the one, whatever hour it was, and she instantly said, well, I can't fix that, but what I did, I took the square and I put it against my face, just like that, because Abraham says, like, oh, for the healing ones, you place it against what you need to be healed. And she says, I can't help you with that, but you have a hormone imbalance, and that's causing that. And she started to talk all about imbalances and hormones, and I'm like, okay, no, I'm trying to, my experiment is not about my hormone imbalance at the moment. I'm trying to figure out how the squares work. So I was like, all right, that's fine. I'll get back to you. So, I actually probably did something I probably shouldn't have. I went right to the Duke instead of just because I wanted to see if I could still call one and how difficult it was. That's when I learned it's kind of I haven't called the Kings again. I'll just leave them alone for now. But I called the Duke that would be in charge of that square, and it was a little difficult, but he came eventually, and it's funny how different they speak than your familiars. The familiars are there all the time, and they'll answer right away. It takes the Duke a long time, and he just comes and goes, what? Yeah, I felt weird about it afterwards.
Are you fucking kidding me?
So I put the square to my face, and I say, do the thing. I'm paraphrasing. And I get nothing. He just goes, done. I was like, all right, bye, paraphrasing. And so I think, well, I guess I'll wait like a month and see how I look. But right after the ritual, I go to the bathroom and I look in the mirror, and I didn't realize that I had put the square right to a blackhead that was now coming out. And so I just pulled it out and said, well, I've got a very effective spot remover, apparently. So I'm not going to do that again. Didn't work exactly how I wanted it to, but, you know, like I said, I can call up the Duke for a spot remover. I'm not going to do that thing. So I haven't experimented with any of them, any other ones, because I don't have any of those specific health problems. There's actually some wrestling ones that I would like to try in a tournament in jiu-jitsu. What did you think I was going to say?
I didn't think anything. My mind did not go anywhere.
Right.
Nice to see you down here in the gutter, BJ.
Yeah, move over.
Thanks for joining us.
You know, this gutter's getting crowded.
Clearly, the retreat does not make you lofty.
Didn't you say someone said that?
Oh yeah, that was the silly people recently who try to act like they know all kinds of ceremony magic. They're like, someone asked what they should do to prepare to work with the spirits and the Gratia, and I was like, maybe do the Abramelin, like, so you got your HGA backing you up, and these people were like, oh, you'll have much loftier things to do after you conjure your HGA. The spirits like that will be beneath you. You won't have any interest in like working with demons. It's like, that's the whole point. That's what happens. Like, the book tells you. You're conjuring demons.
Do you even Abramelin?
So yeah, it can be interesting. The experimenting afterwards is definitely the fun part. That's why I don't have a social life anymore. But that's fine. It's kind of fun.
So you do feel really changed afterwards. You're a different person in a lot of ways.
The person I should have been without all the extra noise and influence. If I didn't have, like we all have. And it...
So you're Gandalf Saruman, not Saruman.
What?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Gandalf Saruman?
Because he was who Saruman should have been.
Instead of
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, I just said a Lord of the Rings sort of quote. Okay.
This is why we
It was
can't
a
take you
very,
anywhere.
very nice pull, actually.
It's not too often I throw it around like nerd stuff.
Well, what was I saying? I was saying something. Oh, the sort of aftermath of kind of meshing yourself with, who you were meant to be, because the self that we all know is so subject to influence. And it's been really, really difficult. And that's probably just me, because I don't see anyone else having the problems that I've had, mostly extreme anger, and I try not to take that out on people, but I haven't been successful. But, and it has only been 6 months? End of October. So I'm still just now settling into the union. And it's been a really crazy winter and spring. So, yeah, if you ask me to talk about this in a year, it might be a little different. Because I'm still experimenting, and it's a lot of fun. And, another thing is, I think you mentioned tarot. You said you did readings.
Yeah, we described
During.
cards during.
I didn't do that during. I did it afterwards. I was kind of asking how I did. And it's really funny how much more alive the cards are. I went to Carrie's classes for a few of them until I had to start praying at night. She did classes on the tarot because I went because I was so bad at it. The cards didn't speak to me at all, and now it's like I can lay them out and I can see everything. It's really amazing. I actually did a reading a few months ago for my mother's friend, and I saw, and I don't even know how I saw it, but I saw that her husband was cheating on her, and I was like, that can't be right, so I'll make a joke about it. And she got all quiet, and she's like, I had a feeling. It's like, oh no. So card reading isn't going to be in my future because I don't want to tell people that stuff. But I saw it as clear as day, and before I'd been like, it's a horse and a tower, I don't know. But it's pretty amazing. So if I don't want to like end everything on a downer and be like, oh, I've been so angry, but everything's calming down now, and we're finally sort of getting used to each other, well, he's already used to me. I'm getting used to his influence and submitting to what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's another thing you'll learn is your will. If you're not clear on it now, it'll be spoken to you plain as day, and that's kind of a relief. I was kind of hoping that it would be something like very specific, like I'll move to Colorado and do this. But it's something that I do all the time, almost anywhere I can go, and it's not a specific journey like I was hoping. But I thought you were gonna add your yawning. Okay. Are there any questions? I think I might be done with my story.
Does he have a name? Do you have a name you call him by?
He told me his name.
It's private.
Yeah. That's what I.
Go around giving those out.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everybody gets his telephone number.
I carved that onto the ring. I wish I had it professionally done, but the people I went to were weird about it. So I just figured I carved that into the ring myself, the sigil. And I got that from the rose cross. Would you like my little mime in case you didn't know what a cross was?
Yeah, you've been blessed.
Yeah. But yeah, if there's, I guess what I wanted to really put out there was that this wasn't as untouchable as you think it is. I mean, it's if you know how to put a ritual together, and if your life is stable enough to handle just a little quiet time, I think you can really do this, and it's so worth it. It really, really is. And you can ask all, the guys who have done it here, and the guy who is doing it here. Thanks for the eyebrow wiggle. How am I on time?
So, the voice that was kind of pushing you and saying, okay, you've already started the ritual, or like telling you certain things along the way. What was there a definite difference between that voice and then the voice, so to say, after you completed the Aberdeen?
You mean like the voice of the angel?
Yeah.
Yes, actually. That was more, before the invocation, it was more like an outside force. He's much more internal now.
Okay.
And it's hard to explain. Well, okay, I used to get, before the invocation, I used to have these wonderful dreams, as if anyone's friends with me on Facebook used to remember. I'd have these wonderful dreams that were very symbolic. And I would usually leave out the more personal symbolic stuff. And I always knew that they meant something. Now after the invocation, and it's kind of sad, I don't get those dreams anymore. Now I get the normal brain junk, and I realized that it was all things that the angel was trying to tell me, and now he just speaks clearly to me.
But essentially, it was the same. Like,
Yeah. It's funny now, like twice now I've had a dream after the invocation where I'm thinking about something that I'm doing magically, a project, and I have a question about it, and the angel just comes behind me like in my dream and says, do this. And just clear. There's no symbols, there's no like flaming dragons or anything. It's just like, do this. I was actually I don't want to call it a talisman. It was sort of a talisman that I had made, and I was done with it, and I thought, well, I should bury it. I wonder where I should bury it. I shouldn't bury it in my house. And I was trying to figure out where to bury it. I thought, I'll sleep on it. I'll figure it out tomorrow. And I have a dream that night that I'm cleaning a house, and I come upon the thing, and I'm like, what do I do with this? And the angel just comes up behind it and says, you burn it. I was like, oh, of course I burn it. I don't bury it. Thank you. I burn it. Duh. And recently I was thinking about working with these oils that I had never worked with before, and I was wondering which to use, and I had a dream that I'm looking at a shelf of all the oils. The angel just comes up behind me and hands me the oil and says, use this one. It's like, thank you very much. It's all there's no symbols anymore. It's very completely clear. And then that's just, it's a lot easier. And that's just in my dreams. Usually at waking, I can just be like, hey, I've got a question, there's the answer, thank you.
So prior to you inadvertently beginning the ritual, had you had that voice pop up at different times?
Never. I just had dreams that I knew were telling me things.
Yeah.
Those crazy, wonderful dreams that I still miss. But I'll trade them for the actual contact. It's fine. But yeah, that's why that first voice was so frightening. I wasn't really sure what to make of it. I just knew I had to.
You just listen.
Yep. And it wasn't telling me to kill people, so I figured it was a safe voice. Yeah. I mean, those are the voices you gotta question, I guess.
I don't know. Depends who it's telling you to kill.
You can also hear about Sarah's magical retirement on the Stooping Starlights podcast.
Yes.
For real?
Yes.
So
Cool.
this is the one, not the most recent one that came out, but the one that came out on the vernal equinox. So there's 4 different female voices talking about their magical retirements, and she's one of them.
And Carrie is one of them.
It's true, she is.
How am I doing on time?
That is a podcast.
It's
Oh my
49.
God.
You have 11 minutes.
Oh, I thought it was 6:30 I was done.
So,
You've done great on time.
has it made a difference in terms of, like when you do magic, the feeling you experience, and then also how successful it is versus before you were doing the work?
The feeling different, yes. My success rate is sort of, I'm successful, but there's like a learning curve, but he's sort of letting me do things and then telling me, okay, this is what you did wrong, and this is how you tweak it. And that's how I was working before, but now it's, how do I explain it?
The learning loop is tighter.
It is. It's tighter, and it's like he's not letting me waste time. He's letting me do things to show, like, okay, this is what you did, and it didn't work, but it did this other thing instead. And so there's always a teaching element. And but I really haven't been doing all that much sort of practical thing. I've kind of been still collecting information. Well, no, it's practical, but I'm sticking to small things like, oh, take away my pimples, because I'm trying to see how everything works. And I'm thinking I'm going to keep compiling information on how to do these certain things so that when I want to do something major, I can do it. So that's where I'm at right now.
What about mundane changes? Like, if you've gone off and had the feeling to go become like a goth rocker or something?
A goth rocker? What? What?
Okay, now we know what you're gonna do.
I've already gotten here. It's gonna be Justin.
Yeah, it's gonna be Justin.
I haven't gotten any.
Did make you cut your hair?
I did cut my hair. That's right. My hair used to be very, very long.
It was.
I just got sick of it, and that was actually part of his influence. It's like, you don't need all. I actually put on jewelry for you guys, which is weird. I don't usually wear a lot of jewelry anymore. He doesn't care about all that, so it's kind of bleeding into me. And I haven't gotten any, go be a rock star voices yet. That would be nice. I mean, I guess. But, I know my will, and that's enough, and I can do that wherever I am. But, no, I'm still being told to, stay where you are and learn how to do things. And that's fine with me, because I'm having a lot of fun learning how magic works. That it's amazing how much I didn't know. I never thought that I was some expert, but it's really amazing how much I can learn every day. Well, that's another thing. I thought that, I don't know who's who in the occult world, and I don't know, on the internets everyone fights, and I'm not really sure who a lot of these names are, and that was another thing that worried me when I began. I'm not like these people. I can't do this. But, the internet's a lot of bluster anyway. So, you really can do it. That's really all that I want to pass on tonight, if anything else. That it's an attainable goal. And I know when I first read the book years ago, the very first version that I read, The Mathers, I thought, wow, this looks really great and I want to do it, but I'll never be able to do that. And now on the other side, I'm like, how did I ever even think that I couldn't do that? So.
Does your angel introduce you to other spirits? Like other spirit guides who could help you?
No other guides. No, I've got him and just the 4 familiars. If he's gonna introduce me to more, hasn't happened yet. Like I said, I'm still settling, so I could be totally different, in a year from now. I don't know. Maybe I won't be as cranky. I've been a little angry with and I heard a lot of people say that when you first get your angel, they'll be really sex crazed and they'll want all the food and drink. Hasn't been my experience. It's just been a lot of anger. Anger, it's finally going away, so I'm finally settling. So, maybe in a few months, I don't know. I haven't heard of anyone saying that their angel introduced them to any spirit guides.
It's your angel kind of gives you the authority to call on the demons, but that's pretty much it. And I guess it helps you with if you're conjuring other angels it's almost like it's like, okay, I've got the past that shows I'm good. Like I can be here and hang out with these angels, and they'll do the stuff I ask. Like that's kind of like what you get by working with your HGA, but not something where it's going to actively be like these are other like spirit guides that need to teach you things and show you stuff, because it's supposed to do all of that.
Anything else? Mm-hmm.
Like before you started the whole 6 month thing, had you been doing like the sort of standard stuff like yoga, pentagram rituals and stuff like that? And did you find them to be like changed after that? Like less significant or more?
Yeah, I did a lot of banishing at first, the lesser banishing ritual, and you know, I don't want to go against the grain too much, but no, I don't do that anymore. You know, I don't want to. I know it's very popular in Thelema to be like, you gotta banish twice a day.
Erica.
The thing is, if you have a magical practice that you're doing every day, I don't think it matters what you're doing.
Yeah.
After a while, when it's integrated, you don't need to do banishing ritual anymore. You just vanish, you know. It just do it.
For when I did that was part of what I did during the 3 days of confession was along with Resh, like for one of them there's the LBRP, one the Lesser Hexagram Ritual, one the Star Ruby, one the Star Sapphire. And as I got to the third day, there was like this clear message from the angel. It was like, okay, that was the process of saying goodbye to these rituals, and like that it was kind of like these things do an initiatory thing that helps you get to this point. And so
you become kind of obsolete.
yeah, so it's like it's more like after that, it's like there are times where you use it if like there's a particular reason to apply that specific effect, as opposed to like as a training structure, the way that they're kind of presented in the Golden Dawn and AA systems.
It's hard to get rid of that because I'd been doing it for years. But now, when I do it, I do chase off my familiar, and I don't want to do that.
Does seem kind of counterproductive.
But yoga, yeah, I did yoga almost constantly when I was alone, like the 6 months, and I don't do it as much now, but I still very much try to do it every day, something. Anyone else?
Thank you for being willing to do this, sir.
Thank you for teaching me to.
So hopefully people enjoyed Sarah's class there. It was from a few years ago, and so obviously some of the understanding and ideas and perspective have developed since then. And hopefully between that class and what we presented in the initial interview, it'll give people a lot of insights and things to think about. I know a lot of people have reached out about how much they liked the first interview and how much it helped them in their own pursuit of their angel, so hopefully this helps additionally. We've got a lot of really great interviews coming up. We're working on a few more, and so we're pretty excited about the things that we'll have for you soon. So make sure that you follow us on YouTube or Facebook, on Anchor or Stitcher or wherever it is that you like to follow podcasts, and make sure to share with your friends and tell them to follow us too so they don't miss anything either. Alright, thank you so much